In this video, you will learn how to set up lights. The main contents of this lesson is introduction of lighting types and setting methods. Let's take a look. First of all, let's make a brief introduction to the lighting types in the Style3D. In the top menu bar, go to Tools, Offline Render. We see the last item in the top is Add Lights. There are 5 light presets: Area Light, Spherical Lights, Sphere Light, Directional Light, Spotlight, and IES Light. Let's go through each one by one. First, set the size to 2048 by 2048 with a transparent background. Then go to Light Properties. The current light is in a default. Let's do asynchronous. We can find that the default lighting is mainly affected by the top light, which is HDR light. Delete it or set it to 0. We can see rendering window become all black. On this basis, let's look at the lighting effects under different types of lights. Locked view and move to an appropriate view. Open an area light. The area light is a soft light. The shadow is also soft. Here you can see that the area light is actually completely scattered at 180 degrees. We can select the light, adjust it in the Property Editor window. The more we adjust the direction, the more concentrated the lights will be and the stronger the When adjust to 90 degrees, we can see that the silhouette of the model's shadow become very sharp. You can also adjust the angle of the light on the top, so the stronger the light, the stronger the exposure will be. You can also adjust the actual lighting area by adjust the width and the height of the light. Okay, so that's the area light, and it is the most common type we use. Next is the sphere light. The sphere lamp is softer because it is a full 720 degree scattering light. The more diffuse the light, the softer the light becomes. In order to see the sphere light, we can set it a little brighter. We can find that the sphere light is the softest. In addition, we can adjust the brightness of the light by adjust the radius of the lights. Because the light is soft, most of them are used as a reflection or auxiliary light. Now let's look at directional light. The directional light is vertical to our 3D window, and the vertical ray illuminates the whole 3D window. It mainly simulates the sun and irradiates the overall environment. The corresponding parameters can also be adjusted in the Property Editor window. For example, if you look at the shadows of the model here like we did with the area light. The shadow of the directional light will be very hard. Here you can soften its shadow and make it weaker. The intensity of the directional light can also be changed here, but in general, the intensity will not be too high, generally below 1. Now let's look at the spotlight. It's like a flashlight. Radioactive irradiation according to its conical shape in the 3D window. We can control the angle of the vertebrae. We can make it a little bit higher. Then we will see two shadows here. One is the shadow edge of the subject, and the other is the light illuminated edge of the spotlight. Here you can also control the two shadows separately. The shadow of the subject, which can be seen in this shadow radius. Adjust the shadow radius to blur the shadow of the subject. Adjusting the penumbra angle can weaken the edge of the spotlight. However, the adjustment of the penumbra angle has little effect on the light and dark contrast. Finally, there is the IES light, which is essentially an indoor light. We can also adjust its power here, that is, the adjustment of the light intensity. And there are a lot of different types of IES lights preset here for choose from. These are the different light types in Style3D. What we need to pay attention to when using it is that the more concentrated the light is, the harder the light will be. The more scattered the light of the light is like a spherical light or an area light, the light will be softer. Okay, so let's talk about how lighting works. First we open up a new project and use a simple sphere to demonstrate. Open up the prop in the scene. Find a sphere and import it into software. Then we'll use the rectangle tool. Create a rectangle in Style3D with a height and a width of 150 centimeters. Lay the rectangle flat on the ground. Let's do a simple demonstration. Turn on offline render and resize it to 1024 by 1024. Then change the background to transparent. Lock the view to render. Next, we will delete all the lights, set the intensity of the HDR lamp, the ambient light, to 0, now the scene is completely unlit. When we are arranging the lighting, we should first have a main light source. We should irradiate the light from the upper right side. Take a look at our renderings. We will find that although our light is placed in the upper right corner, the darkest places for ball are not the ones that are backlit. It's a terminator in the middle of it. Those of you who have studied painting or art may know that this line is called the intersection line. The reason why we have this effect is because when we shine this light, it's not just essentially shining on this sphere and on the whiteboard below the sphere. The whiteboard will have a reflective effect on the sphere, reflect the light from the whiteboard onto the sphere, and at the bottom of the sphere, because it cannot receive any light information, it will show a completely black state when we make clothing in the software. If we don't build the scene, there will rarely have a floor or a ground, in the absence of a whiteboard, when we render. The sphere will have a very clear half-white and half-black effect, which will also form a dead shadow. So in order to mimic the natural effect and reduce the contrast between black and white, we can be on the bottom right or on the ground. Add a light and turn it down a little bit, to imitate the lighting effect of the whiteboard. As reflected light or fill light, alleviating his black and white opposition, at this point the darkest part of the sphere. It will be the light-dark boundary between the key light and the fill light. In 3D scenes, when lighting clothing or models wearing clothing, the position of the light is also very important. The position of the light can be divided into 6 types: front light, side light, backlight, side backlight and top light. The first is the front light. When we put a light on the front, set the width and height slightly larger. This kind of light can hide flaws well and soften the shape of the overall object. But the light can make the subject look flat and some areas will appear pale. We can see that many details in the rendering will be hidden due to the front light. The next one is side front light. It refers to the light irradiation at the position of 1/3 to 1/2 of the front side. For example, let's make a side front light here. Side front light is the most commonly used main light position when we light daily. The indoor_flash_lamp in the preset is a very typical example of side front light. This kind of light can well preserve the overall shape of the object and make it appear more three-dimensional. At the same time, it can also reflect the various parts of the subject very well. The third is our side light, which can show the shape of the object very well. Make the object look very three-dimensional, but its fatal shortcoming is that its shadow will be very heavy and very obvious. A lot of detail in clothing is lost in shadows. A very typical example is the 1_side light in the preset, which has a similar effect. The fourth is backlighting. We can play a light on the back. Backlighting is equal to using a backlight. It can form a strong sense of space on the back of the object, and it will also make the object produce a silhouette effect. forming a relatively strong sense of drama. This kind of light can better express the details and texture of transparent and translucent object materials. If our clothing has a translucent texture, it can be well represented. We also often use the backlight effect to hit the light on the background board behind. In this way, we can separate our characters from the background in the picture, thus creating a silhouette effect. Next is the side backlight. The position of the side backlight will be 1/3 to 2/3 behind the left and right. Its main function is also as a rim light to outline the outline of the characters and separate the characters from the background. Let's make two side backlights on the left and right sides. We can directly select copy and mirror paste on the lamp, along the x-axis direction, so as to outline the outline effect of the characters. The sixth light is top light, under normal circumstances. The ceiling lights illuminated from top to bottom mostly imitate the light effect in the natural environment. If it is to imitate the natural environment, we need to set the light to be slightly larger to enhance its scattering effect. There is also a very typical top light, called spotlight. It can show the feeling of the stage, make the scene more dramatic and mysterious, thus creating a strong sense of atmosphere. The above are the orientations of the 6 most representative lights. When we arrange the lights, we will place the lights on the above-mentioned different light positions according to different needs. The specific placement combination needs to clarify the role played by each light. For example, let's set up the 3-point lighting. Is our most commonly used photography lighting method. 3 lighting points respectively refer to the main light, auxiliary light, and contour light. First is the main light. According to what we just said, we can arrange it in the sideways direction, because it's the main light. We can brighten its intensity. This light is the dominant and brightest light in the scene. The key light is on one side of the subject to create highlights and shadows, but if there is only one light, the shadow side of the subject will be too strong, so a fill light is also needed here. It is placed opposite the key light to balance light and shadow, in order not to make it more obvious than the key light. We can slightly lower its intensity. In this way, the light and dark contrast of the object is not as strong as before. Finally, we can add a contour light to the back. To achieve the effect of removing the outline, we can set its width slightly larger. This is the simplest 3-point lighting method. There is a key light, a fill light, and a rim light are used in total. In our software preset light library, the light of each template is formed into 5 light shapes according to different functions. In addition to the main light, fill light, rim light, and reflection and base light. Reflection needs to imitate the reflection effect of actual walls, ceilings, floors, etc. The basic light imitates the natural light in the whole scene, which can also be understood as sky light. Take the high_contrast in the light library as an example. This light preset, it doesn't use our HDR light, which is our overhead light. Let's also turn off all the other light sources, to make it look completely black. The first thing to see is the first basic light, which can set the tone of the overall lighting, but this kind of light will be very soft. It will not show a location where the light is very strong or the shadows are very weak, so this light, it's essentially not aggressive at all. It's a very soft light. And then the second light is the main light. Our main light is illuminated by a parallel lamp. The characteristics of the parallel lamp make the shadow of this light very hard, and the direction in which it shines is very specific. From right to left, but as a high contrast light, obviously its bright surface is not bright enough, so we can add another main light. There's not only one roll type for all the lights here. So we have two main lights. With this area light, the right side will become very bright. Correspondingly, its high contrast is formed. But there is still a part on the left that is in the blind spot of the light. So we need to add a fill light to its opposite position. Brighten the right side slightly to make the overall picture look more natural and harmonious. Then we can add a contour light. You can see that the model's arms are slightly lightened by this light, already able to outline the outline of its back. The last one is the contour light, which is shining backwards. It can integrate the model and the scene very well. Other presets in the lighting library are also combined on a similar principle when we use lighting presets. We often have to make further adjustments on the basis of the presets to achieve the final lighting effect we need. Like the current high contrast lighting, because its contrast intensity is relatively high, its shadow surface will also be relatively strong. So in response, we can add light to its left side to make the contrast slightly weaker. But in order not to make it more obvious than the main light, you can slightly reduce its intensity. The overall reflection can also make it more intense. Just now we also mentioned the contrast of light. In the lighting presets, in addition to high contrast, there are also low contrast and medium contrast, which are also lighting presets that combine light and dark contrasts of different intensities. For example, the light on a cloudy day can be expressed with an effect similar to low contrast. The outdoor light effect in the morning can be expressed with medium contrast light. We also have two very unique lighting effects in the presets. One is Rembrandt_light and the other is the _butterfly_light. Rembrandt_light is a very important lighting arrangement in portrait photography. Its basic light effect is to form a triangular spot on the face of the body, so it is also called the triangle light. If your model, it's a front view, this light will appear as a triangular patch on the left cheek. It's essentially a projection of our brow bone and the bridge of our nose. Of course, when many students of us use a light, we'll feel that the light is really weak, so we can modify the light based on it. For example, strengthen the effect of the main light on the right side, and add another auxiliary light on the opposite side of the main light, then it have a very clear light and dark junction in the middle, in order to weaken this crossing line. We can also add an auxiliary light in the lateral direction and reduce its intensity. We found that in general lighting, it is rare to arrange lighting directly from the front direction. Next, let's look at the second typical lighting type, the _butterfly_light. It is also known as beauty light. It features a triangular shadow that forms under the model's nose. The shadow is also formed mainly by the main light cast directly above it, sometimes, to weaken the effect of the nose shadow. A reflector light is placed on the front and bottom. Because it's reflective, we can adjust its intensity to be weaker to imitate the effect of the reflector and weaken its shadow. In addition to the above few very typical lights, the preset also provides two different light colors of light effect, rich_color and neon. We know that light is absorbed and reflected when it hits an object. When light hits a black object, such as a model's hair, it is completely absorbed. For colored clothing, or the model itself, it will also selectively absorb part of the light and reflect part of the light according to the wavelength of light. And different colored lighting effects will shift the overall final atmosphere and hue. So we need to make appropriate lighting arrangement according to different costumes. In addition to the above lighting arrangement effects we set up in some indoor studios, the preset also provides three lighting effects of natural light, namely soft_sunlight, the _summer_sun, and the _winter_sun. Like soft_sunlight, it is a more similar lighting effect to cloudy day. Although the source of natural light is the sun, the characteristics of natural light at different times are quite different. Like soft_sunlight is closer to our cloudy day lighting effect than the _summer_sun, the shadow of its light will be tougher, and the light will be more intense. The _winter_sun, the corresponding brightness is even brighter. It seems to imitate the reflective effect of being illuminated by snow in winter. Its shadow will be softer. But seeing its main light is relatively strong, so we can edit the light on the basis to weaken the contrast of light. In our final example, we can use some shadows to create creative lighting. For example, we still use Rembrandt_light to make masks from patterns. Reposition its 3D position. And group it. We find the group in Object Browser and edit it in a location. Let's try and see what happens. You can also rotate its direction. Create some light spots on the background. We can also change the color of the light as appropriate. Add a base light. Turn the base light slightly blue. It can also be supplemented with lights. Add a strong reflector at the back. And try not to penetrate into the ground. In this video, we're going to start with the types of lights, explain the preset from the principles of lighting changes and layout, and briefly introduced the adjustment method based on the preset, and simply made a few different lights for effect demonstration. That's it for this video. Everyone is welcome to like and share the video, participate in the comments and leave a message. We will reply and answer key questions in a timely manner. I'll see you in the next video.